Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first Project Portfolio Management Summit for 2023. My name is Dr. T. Wu, and I will be the host today and also presenter at various sessions. Let me first welcome everybody to today's summit. And we are really excited to have over 120 participants to Project Portfolio Management Summit. As I'm sure a lot of you know, within project management, portfolio management is still emerging. It is still growing. It is new. So to have that many people excited and joining today's summit, we are extraordinarily just glad to have this turnout. As we kick off the meeting, I'm going to give you a little bit of the background and a little bit about the thinking, what we put together, and as well as what is the agenda throughout the day. And then very quickly, I'll dive into my next piece, which is what I see as the state of portfolio management. So let me start with a little bit of the participant profile. As you can see on the slide, we have people around the world, predominantly from United States, which is not a surprise. PMO Advisory is a US-based company. Even though a lot of our training, we are one of the first organization, for example, to offer portfolio management professional bootcamp back in 2014. And as such, we do have customers around the world. In this first summit, we market predominantly to the people in the United States, and a little bit to Canada as well, and you could see the turnout. So we are extraordinarily happy to see that at the organizational participation level, you have very many different industry. In some ways, you could see where portfolio management is applied to. In professional services, for example, there we have a lot of consultants on the call, and healthcare industry, but also a little bit of across others. You could see participation by country. And clearly, as you can see, that United States is overly represented. So I think one of the things for us to do better next time is to market better to an international crowd. But having said that, we purposely put this time starting at 10 o'clock to also attract our colleagues and friends from the West Coast, which, as you can imagine, 7 o'clock in California. So it is time zone wise more specific to the United States and Canada. Organizational level, we have really quite a bit of people. Almost everybody is manager and above. There are a couple of associates and students we put in the other category. And even the manager is probably misleading because these are pretty heavy, I would say, looking at their profile, heavy duty managers responsible for PMOs, etc. So their title may be manager, but their organization level is likely to be higher. But we didn't, of course, want to make up any of the data, so we use the title manager. So a lot of us are in the executive range, and easily over 95% are. So I think we have a really group of professionals, and then by the different roles, as you can also see. So overall, we have right now that number is actually higher. We did have a number of last minute registrants. So right now we have about 135 people joining this summit. So again, excellent turnout. Thank you so much for making this special. So for today's agenda, my name is Dr. T. Wu, and I'll be doing a quick introduction as well as a welcome and setting the stage for today's summit. We have an extraordinarily full agenda. There's really not a lot of room for break, and one of the probably complaints you may have is that, how come we have such a packed agenda, especially we don't even give you really lunchtime. But I figured during the lunchtime, starting about 1:15 US Eastern time, and by the way, all the units of time I'm going to mention is the US Eastern time. I figured not everybody necessarily be interested, so you may take a break. And on top of that, knowing I think everybody now is very used to virtual meetings, if there's a topic you're not interested in, you're likely to go do something else. So for those reasons, we make the agenda pretty tight because you'll probably take a break as you need to. But we do have today, starting with the welcome introduction, then I'll dive straight into what I see, and it is a personal view, but it is a personal view informed by working in this field, working with a lot of the people that's even in the attendance here, through training, through consulting, through standard writing. Um, so I hope my view, while it is a personal view, it is an informative view. Then we have Dr. Panos to talk about leading change in a VUCA world. For those of you not familiar with the term VUCA, volatility, uncertain, complexity, ambiguity. This is the current state in which we live in. Then we have Gary to focusing really on agile portfolio management. I'm sure everybody's know the prevalence of agile, and it is, of course, impacting portfolio management as well. Then we'll take a lunch break. For those of you who's interested in considering the PMI certificate, PFMP, project portfolio, it's really portfolio management professional, then we can dive into that part as well. And then we have Ross to talk about the synthesizing various portfolio management approaches, followed by Panos again, looking at a case study. And then by John looking at multi-dimensional portfolio management. I think it's a really fabulous framework that he came up with, and really looking at advanced portfolio management. And then finally, in the last hour, we have collected a number of questions, and we will read back. To keep things a little bit simple, we'll just have two of us. We have David Vincenti from the PMI New Jersey chapter, and myself reading back some of the answers that we collected from the various experts, and then a final conclusion and closing. So that's what we have for today. As you have questions throughout the day, please use the open question and answer. We may not be able to answer all the questions, partly because of time, partly because of expertise. I think this is a genuinely new area. There isn't a lot of best practices. Best practices has a fairly rigorous academic definition, but there are some good practices. So in areas in which we are not sure of, we will do some research and get back to you. So all good questions, we'll try to get back to you over the coming week. And it is being recorded. One of the things that my team have created, which I'm particularly proud of, is our program guide. There you can see the speakers, their topics, the core teams, and then there is instruction how to claim the PDU. One correction, by the way, I do apologize. I should have striked this bullet out. Originally, we did have a section for directory of people who's opt-in. But as we did our final review just yesterday, we realized some people selected to be in the directory and then said no email in the comment area. And there were a couple of people who did that. So it sounded like they may not want to publish their email, but we weren't sure. Given the sensitivity and privacy of people's data, and it is very last minute, when we caught that, we decided not to publish the summit directory. But about 50 people did opt in. So what we decided to do, and you'll see that later in the presentation, but as well as in our invitation, we have a LinkedIn group in which people can, of course, personally decide to join. In this case, it's less privacy consideration, at least from my company's perspective. We do have a very nice program guide, and you could find it here. The directory, like I said, it's no longer in the program guide. Well, instead, we do have that LinkedIn group, and you could join the LinkedIn group here. So we'll make that available, put that into one of the Q&As or a chat message a little bit later. So you'll see that if you want to join. And what we plan to do is this LinkedIn group was originally created for people who were really aspiring to be portfolio manager. This is we created back in, I think, around 2014 in October. Now, of course, it is really a collection of various portfolio managers, and we use that to address questions, sometimes also announce any of our events. I think PMO Advisory is one company that does more event or more training in portfolio management than at least any other company that I know of. I should say project portfolio management. We do have a couple bonuses and raffles, and we'll announce the raffle winner at the end. But just a couple bonuses for all of you who attend the summit today. If you're interested in any of our training, you can get 15% off, which is one of the highest sales that we do. We actually try not to do any more sales in 2023. Also today, tomorrow, and also I think on June 4th, you can download this book on Amazon. It is an Amazon Kindle, and Amazon's a bit confusing. If you join their readers group, you could get things for free. But in this case, you could genuinely purchase the book for free. And then for raffle, we have a couple prizes, and we will announce the winners at the end. Given technology is something that we have to live with, and thankful for technology to make this event possible, to make this virtual conference even running smoothly, but things can go down, and we fully recognize that. So in case there are technical difficulties, especially if Zoom, I one time was giving a business presentation in Australia, and all of a sudden our system went down. It was demoing a real life system, and suddenly things stopped working. And our customer were particularly unhappy with us, thinking it was our technology problem. And frankly, we thought at the time was our technology problem. But later, we found out that somebody cut the cable connecting Australia to North America. So as you can see, technology problem happened. If it does happen, I would say please quickly just look into if it's your site only, because it could be your internet access. Zoom support is always available for you to contact. And you can also email us at here to inquire. We also have the registrant page. You can see the link there. If there's any general outage, we will try to make the announcement there. One other thing is, if we do go offline, please wait for a couple of minutes, say 10 minutes, and try to rejoin. Maybe that will clear up. But if it is a persistent problem, then of course we will postpone and have a new date for the summit. Obviously, we hope everything works out well. We hope for the best, but we of course have to plan for contingencies. I do see there's a question. Will this presentation be available after the summit? Absolutely. All the presentation that you'll see today, we will post them in our registrant page, which is the main page really on the bottom link here. And I understand people may not be able to capture all that information quickly. So we will make that available, and you'll be able to see that. So thank you for the question. So that's all I have right now. I want to thank a couple people for all your help. There's the speakers. We have 5 speakers, including myself. We have core team members who help us really look through the speaker proposals, help us plan some of the activities, dive into the detail. Some of the core team members are also expert panelists who responded to the questions. And you can see, by the way, we have almost 30 pages of responses. So today we only be sharing some of them. We will also publish the question and the response a little bit later, because frankly, just didn't ran out of time in terms of reviewing them. I also want to thank my team at PMO Advisory, who helped make this possible. Many of you got to know April, Cherise, or Jaggy. So they're, I think, also on the call. So I want to thank them as well for all their contribution. One last thing, and this is a bit of a news. PMI is currently forming a core standard committee to develop the next edition of the standard for portfolio management, and that will be the 5th edition once it is done. The time frame looks like starting later this year, probably somewhere around the 3rd quarter, and probably going through most of 2024 before we finish. One of the speakers here is Dr. Panos. He and I are dear friends. We were on the last committee together. We co-edited books together. He and I will be the chair and co-chair for the committee. So very shortly, we will be looking for experienced portfolio management practitioners and thought leaders to contribute. And I think there are actually a number of ways to contribute. One is for those of you who, at the very minimum, once the standard is largely created, it will be open to the world to review and comment. So adjudication, comment, that is a period in which you could come in. That's probably going to be later in 2024. If you're interested to play a more active role, um, please consider joining the core team. You will be selective. It is usually pretty competitive, and we have not had enough discussions to know what are the real skill sets that we're looking for. But definitely people who have experience, who have especially thought leaders in your field, are definitely highly, highly welcome. And then there's probably a reviewer team as well. Reviewer teams are essentially the first line of defense. The core team creates something, the review team takes a look at it and give us a sort of a sense of reality. And there's possible other sub teams as well. So if you are interested, please complete this form. I'm going to pass this information straight to PMI. So really I'm just helping to collect the data. It's rare that we have a project portfolio management summit with 130 some people joining. So we'll pass that information to PMI. But again, if you want to contribute, volunteer, depends on how much time commitment, depends on your interest, please do help together. I think we all could work together to make this field more vibrant. That's it about the introduction. I'm currently 1 minute behind schedule, so not too bad. And I am going to transition to the state of portfolio management, at least from my personal view. If you have any questions right now, as I change slide, feel free to put them in and we can address that. Okay, I don't see any questions, so let me dive into the first presentation.